want to discuss with my daughter, Ashley, the difference in our generations when talking about the topic of going nude contact. I recently wrote an article that appeared in EPOCH Times, and the comments exploded. Each of my daughters read the article and said, Mom, I have to talk to you about what you wrote. The article was called The Bradys Wouldn't Survive 2026, Why Yesterday's Good Parents Are Now Perceived as Toxic. So, Ashley, tell me where I missed it in this article.
Well, I think first thing to point out is you're from the Boomer generation, where I'm from the Millennial generation, and we were both raised very differently. Of course, I did like all the shows that we grew up watching. I always do like that they always had something great to share about an obstacle that a kid was facing and how the parents did it. But I think the issue that my generation has now with your generation is your generation has kind of checked out and isn't the parents that you had, whether your parents were good or bad. What I mean by that is you guys got to spend a lot more times with your grandparents. Your grandparents were heavily involved. Your parents were heavily involved in raising you. So you had kind of 4 different perspectives on any kind of issues that you have, where I only have 2 different perspectives. And now I only have 1 different perspective. So if I have an issue, it's kind of hard for me to go to my mom because I only have one other perspective. And because you and I are very similar, we almost have the same perspective on things that we agree or don't agree on.
Tell me, I'm so grateful as a person who does, I still have contact with my grown adult children. I mean, you still want me as part of your life, even though you guys think I'm crazy. You still love me and you still allow me to be around.
Passionate is the word we use.
That's so sweet. But the article was talking about trying to show that the parenting style of the 70s and 80s, which was modeled on sitcom TV, as the parenting style of a child has a dilemma and mom and dad are there and they give wisdom and then they help the child work it through. That is the parenting style that was modeled for the people who are now parenting or have parented what is now the adult generation. And that style is now being labeled as emotionally immature and toxic. And so how do people of our age, especially those who have had their children cut them off, 38% of people who are Gen Z and millennial have cut off a family member and don't even want to talk to them. So how does the parent in that situation bridge the gap or try to understand what has happened in these adult-child relationships? And can it be mended?
That's a hard question. I think personally, because your generation didn't come from a lot of broken homes, but my generation did.
Not you.
No, but a lot of my friends, most of my friends have come from divorce. And that's hard when you have step parents and other people involved in those decisions and helping you get to where you want to be. I think a lot of reason that my generation does cut off your generation is because we've set up rules and boundaries, and your generation's like, well, this is how we did in my generation. Okay, but you're not me and I'm not you. We're different people. Now, if I want you to wash your hands before you hold my baby, then you have to wash your hands before you hold my baby, or you're not going to hold my baby. And unfortunately, those are rules. And you're like, well, I'm the grandma. It's like, well,
I don't do that.
No, I'm just giving an example because a lot of people have issues with like overstepping mother-in-laws or parents that just don't listen. Or it's like, oh, I need you not to feed my kid cookies. So you need to eat a balanced meal. And it's like, I'm grandma. It doesn't matter. It's like, yes and no. Like, don't get me wrong. One of my favorite memories is when grandma takes us to the store and goes, put everything you want in the cart that your mom doesn't let you have. And it's like, yes, you're the best, grandma. Well, of course, grandma's the best. She gives you everything your mommy doesn't give you. Of course, we want those things. But again, we have boundaries set in place, whether they're good or bad. It's being ignored. It's being not listened to. I want what's best for my child. And if you want to be in my child's life, you do have to follow my rules, my regulations. You don't go and get the baby's first haircut without mom being there because that's something monumental. You wouldn't do that, but other mothers have. Those are things that are terrifying.
One reason I see is that this generation has grown intolerant of the older generation's normal behaviors. Like it used to be, I'm from a big Italian family, and every year we would have a very fun Thanksgiving reunion where probably around 50 to 60 family members showed up. And I mean, the men would play pinochle and yell and scream at each other, and they would all be in the garage eating oysters together. And it was one big fun-loving family, but there was tons of dysfunction going on, but you overlooked it because it's just because it was your family. you didn't start nitpicking and decide you weren't coming anymore because you didn't like how one of the uncles carved the turkey, or you didn't like how one of the aunts guarded the desserts. And so it was an assumption that because your family, you put up with, tolerate, not enjoy behaviors just because that's what you do with family. And somehow in your generation, you're erasing that, and you're asking for older people to be perfect. And when they can't, the one thing you guys have to understand is we can't go back into the parenting realm and reparent you.
Right.
We can't. We are stuck with the situation as is. And if you decide to tell me I'm never talking to you again, you're cutting off all ways for me to be able to make amends. And so can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know your generation justifies it, but when you're sitting on this side saying, well, I never will get a chance again to try to fix it, how is that fair to a parent who a lot of times doesn't even know what they did wrong?
I think the biggest issue is when we put those boundaries in place, and then the parents are constantly crossing those boundaries after like so many years, say 38 years. If you've crossed my boundaries every single time I see you, I do want to cut you off. Or I've even sat you down and said, hey mom, you say this every single time I see you, and I really don't want you to say it. And you're like, oh, okay. And then the next time I see you, you say it again. It's like, did you not listen? Did we not have that conversation? So I think my generation, we're putting those words out there. It's not that you're perfect or I'm perfect. None of us are perfect. We're all very far from it. We're saved by grace, thankfully. But when we put those boundaries in place, it's shocking when you guys come back dumbfounded when you don't understand that those boundaries have been put in place, and you're still going to be that little kid crossing that line in the sand.
But we have kids graduating from college who the day they graduate never talk to their parents again. So those are kids that are 22.
But something that may have happened that we don't know about. They may have trauma that they haven't gotten resolved, or issues that haven't been resolved.
Okay, but how does the parent get a road back when the kid says, I'm done, you didn't respect my boundaries, I'm done, and the parents are like, I was just mom, he was just dad, we were just doing all that we knew to do?
I think it takes a lot of internal looking at.
Are you sure it doesn't take communication?
Absolutely.
Sitting down?
Everything takes communication.
Okay, but for a kid to cut a parent off without
it, to me, that means it got so severe that you had to cut them off to do what was best in your life. So that means you've spent years trying to communicate to an adult who has not listened to you, and you get to the point where you're like, I'm done. I give up.
So then it was all about you when we were raising you and trying to give you lessons and take you to all the places to help you become a productive adult. And the day you become a productive adult, you say, well, it's still all about me, and I didn't like how you did it, and I didn't like your parenting style. So now the reward for all your years of pouring into me is you never get to see me again.
Oh, I think a situation like that is probably something way deeper.
That is not unusual. It is very big.
I never hear about that.
38% of kids are doing it to somebody.
38% is always when they turn 22. I think a lot of it's more people in their late 30s and 40s who've been dealing with their parents' issues for 10, 15, 20 years that we're not putting that on our kids. We're not going forward. We're not going to be those people that I'm not the dog that I'm not going to sit there and have you beat me again. I'm done. I'm tired. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, do you think this is happening in Christian families, non-Christian? Do you think it's because therapists are helping one generation heal and the other generation doesn't get therapy? Like, is this happening in families where there's not group therapy? Is there somebody there playing the kind of being the referee? Because I've watched several shows. I watched the Oprah show. I watched Dr. Phil's show. And from what I could tell, it was pretty one-sided. The kid went to therapy. The therapist said, hey, it's better that you go no contact. The parents aren't even brought into the situation. Next thing they know, they're not allowed to see their grandkids. They're not allowed to see their kids. Their kids won't show up. They write a long letter of what's wrong, and there's no dialogue.
No, I think you definitely need dialogue.
So I think a lot of people are being cut off with no dialogue.
That's possible.
And so what is the road back? If your generation thinks it's okay to do that, then how do we get a dialogue going so that there can be repair?
So for me, what I would have to have is I would have to see true change. Because it's so nice to write a letter. Yeah, anybody can write a letter. ChatGPT can write you a letter. But that's not necessarily sincere. That's not necessarily from the heart.
So not only can a parent write a letter and then you're going to judge the sincerity of it?
Because
that's so cold-hearted.
How do I know that you actually wrote the letter?
Oh, that's ridiculous.
But again, there's things that you've wronged me that You probably never thought about
it. We're good with each other.
Not ever thought about it again, but I still think about it. So if I'm going to therapy to still work through those issues, for me, I would need you in therapy with me to be like, hey, Mom, every time I wear blue, you say this, or every time I wear that, you say that and it upsets me. Then that's something we can solve, and then we wouldn't go to where we go no contact.
Okay.
But some people I don't think are mature enough to bring their parents or whoever hurt you into therapy to solve that issue.
Okay, so how do we help people do that? Because it is an epidemic. The parents are home crying all the time. They're not getting to see, and to me, the cruelest thing they can do is not let them see their grandchildren, because some of the worst parents are some of the best grandparents. I've seen it multiple times. They fail with their kids. They're phenomenal grandparents. And yet the therapist or whomever is telling them, well, they're going to do the same thing to your grandkids. And I'm like, just be in the same room with them. Make sure the behaviors don't happen. Give me a break. Like, don't let people not be able to see you or the grandchildren. Why should you be rewarded,
though? When you were such a terrible parent, why should you be rewarded to see your grandkids?
But were they terrible parents?
They could have been.
But I don't think, I'm not going to say. Because if I'm not going to deny that, because I used to tell you guys growing up, look, I'm doing the best I can. I'm probably failing. When you grow up, if you want to go to a therapist and pull me in the office and say it was my fault, I'll agree it was all my fault, because I don't know how to do it any other way.
But I don't think a lot of parents are mature enough
to have that conversation. But I used to tell you guys that over and over.
Yes, you have told us that many times.
Yes,
but I don't think a lot of parents are mature enough to be like, you know what, I actually am probably the one at fault. You know what? That thing that happened when you were 4, it is 100% my fault, and I'm sorry that it made you feel that way. And then maybe they can get that boundary removed and they can move forward with healing. I think your generation has a lot of trauma that we don't know about. We have a lot of trauma that you guys don't know about, and that's what we're kind of holding in. And it's like we're being triggered. So every time I'm being triggered, what am I supposed to do? Just hold it in? I'm sorry. I want to be healed. I don't want to be triggered every time.
Okay, but we can speak as a family from, we had a family member go no contact, and for almost 40 years didn't talk to two sides of the family. And we know from our end that we just moved on and lived our lives. And when that person came back into our lives, they were much a stranger to us.
I still don't know them.
Yes, and that's sad. So everybody lost.
Yeah.
Everybody missed in that.
It's really sad.
It is really sad.